Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Keep the faith.
This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Something happened? We apologize. Let's go.
A contentious day on Capitol Hill. Two of Donald Trump's top national security picks facing tough questions about their past controversial records.
Senator, I will always obey the law.
Kash Patel, Trump's pick to run the FBI, taking tough questions about his calls for political retribution against Donald Trump's opponents and his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. But he broke with Trump when it came to the issue of pardons for some January 6th defendants.
I'm asking, was he wrong to do it?
I do not agree with the commutation of any sentence of any individual who committed violence against law enforcement.
The tough questions for Patel came mostly from Democrats. But for Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's choice as director of national intelligence, a great deal of scrutiny came from Republicans.
I want to make certain that in no way does Russia get a pass in either your mind or your heart.
Senator, I'm offended by the question because my sole focus, commitment, and responsibility is about our own nation, our own security, and the interests of the American people.
Gabbard pressed about her calls for a pardon for Edward Snowden.
Edward Snowden broke the law.
Who fled the U.S. after releasing a trove of government secrets.
Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't. Apparently you don't.
Republicans left the Patel hearing confident he was on the path to confirmation.
Oh, there's no question he gets confirmed.
While their support for Gabbard was tepid. Only Matt Gaetz, Trump's original pick for Attorney General, has dropped out of the running. And Trump has made it clear he wants all of his picks confirmed.
Well, sure, we want fast confirmations.
Meanwhile, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Trump's pick to run the Department of Health and Human Services, is facing a new challenge. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who chairs the committee in charge of his confirmation, said yesterday that he is, quote, struggling with Kennedy's nomination, a sign he may vote no. Kennedy can only afford to lose 3 GOP votes and still win confirmation.
No, 4. Okay, so hello, everybody. Happy Friday, you bastards. It's just, wow. This week has been like, it's nonstop. We're back. I mean, it's, that press conference yesterday, it was like COVID all over again, wasn't it? All that was missing from that was little Debbie Burks and one of her, designer scarves. I mean, it's cray-cray. And the world is watching this. You understand. Okay. So now we have these confirmation hearings that happened yesterday. And I'm not happy that we didn't cover them live. But it's good because I got a chance to watch them and cut them up and show you what happened with these nominees and who might prevail and who might not prevail. But, it's so interesting that no matter what happened this week, okay, no matter what craziness happened this week, the fact that, we didn't even know that. I didn't know this till, yesterday. We don't even have somebody in charge of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration. I did not know that. I knew he disbanded the Security Advisory Board. The advisory board exists, but there are no members. We knew that. We know that he's picking apart and pulling apart our government. A lot of people don't understand why that would be. We have had these bizarre candidates come and lie under oath, literally lie under oath about people they obviously know because we have videotape of them being on those people's podcasts. We have books that some of these people have written. We have articles that some of these people have published. We have enemies lists. We have, accusations against vaccine manufacturers. We have all kinds of crap, okay, all kinds of. And you know what? None of it is going to matter to people until it touches their lives. We've had government frozen, unfrozen, frozen again, and now a restraining order on the freeze. That was this week. And, I think the thing that's really going to make everybody sit up and take notice, not the Democrats, not independents in this country. They're already like, holy crap. How far is this going to go? Oh, all the way, baby. It's going all the way. The obvious thing is this government is being taken apart bit by bit, piece by piece, just as it is in a hostile takeover. Just, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can either, it depends what you like. Do you like rom-coms? Okay, watch Pretty Woman. And Edward, Julia Roberts, Richard Gere character, Edward, is he is the guy that, he's Elon Musk, except, better looking, smarter, and just slightly duller than, he had that sharp, useless look, okay? So if you don't understand what that is, just watch that, where they buy companies and they take them apart and sell off the parts because it's worth more that way. The other hostile takeover thing I would suggest you do is go find Barbarians at the Gate. Go find that and watch that again. However, that is what is underway. That is what is going on. And, I could tell you everything. I could tell you everything that's already happened inside the agencies, and it's shocking. It's appalling. Do you know why we don't have why we have one now? As of this morning, we have a guy who's an acting FAA director. Okay. Yesterday, when this plane crashed, we did not. Do you know why? The man who was in charge of the FAA, the head honcho at the Federal Aviation Administration, quit his job the day Donald Trump. No, that's another guy. Or is that guy? Oh, it's so confusing. He quit his job, yes, I think the day that Donald Trump was sworn in, because he saw Elon Musk's rocket remember I showed it to you, and it was like people in the Turks and Caicos were looking at the sky going, what is that? Is that fireworks? Oh, it's beautiful. No, it was Elon Musk's rocket blowing up. Well, it turns out that the head of the FAA had to reroute so many flights, Federal Express flights and DHL flights and commercial flights and private flights and all kinds of flights. And it fell on his platter to do so. And he told Elon, you're grounded. You're grounded. We cannot have your spaceships exploding willy-nilly all over the world while you sit like a schoolboy and giggle with depraved abandon and say, it was an exciting explosion. And Elon retaliated against him. I guess he went to Donald Trump and reported him to the counselor, reported him to the principal. And he said, that's it, I'm out. I resigned. So we didn't have an head of an FAA yesterday. That's just one thing. Okay, that's just one thing. Elon Musk also yesterday was able to show you that he's inside the Office of Personnel Management. He is inside the HR agency for the entire federal government. And it's according to now the Washington Post and other really good, diligent reporters who have been fact-checked before they hit publish, that Elon Musk is inside OPM sending out memos. He's the one that's making the offer that they can't refuse to get paid for 8 months. Donald Trump is now distancing himself from that. That's not my offer. I didn't make that because it's illegal. It would be illegal if Trump did, because he has no ability to pay severance. And we also found out that there's a $25,000 cap on severance for civil servants. Today, we find out Elon Musk is in another agency, and this one it's frightening because it's the Treasury.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
When Trump advisor Elon Musk showed up on a video link praising a right-wing party and calling it the best hope for Germany. Lee Canary has more on Musk's message, suggesting it's time for Germans to shake off their Nazi past.
Can you hear me okay? Elon Musk appeared at a campaign rally for Germany's far-right Alternative for Germany party just weeks before a national election.
I think there's frankly too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that. Children should not be guilty of the sins of their parents, or even let alone their parents, their great-grandparents, maybe even.
Outside the party, many Germans were deeply offended by those comments, says Tom Nuttall from The Economist.
But this cuts right against a tenet of German national identity, which is never forget, always understand.
On Monday, many remembered the horrors of the Holocaust 80 years after the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp. Musk visited it last year after an uproar over anti-Semitic messages he posted on X and later apologized for. Last week, Musk made a widely talked about gesture that he said was not a Nazi salute. He also said his critics need better dirty tricks. The Anti-Defamation League called it awkward, but not a Nazi salute.
Oh, God.
Days later, after he posted a Nazi-themed pun, the ADL responded, "Elon Musk, the Holocaust is not a joke." Musk has supported right-wing causes in both Italy and the United Kingdom in recent months. But those are more moderate parties than the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, who with a strong anti-immigrant platform are rejected by most Germans.
It's not entirely clear to me why someone like Elon Musk would risk torching his reputation in the way he appears to be doing by endorsing a party that has no prospect of entering government.
The party, however, is growing and has embraced the man, richer than 100 different countries, with a social media company as his soapbox, campaigning for their cause.
Convince people one vote at a time.
Oh, I wanted you to see that last shot. It looks like Big Brother is what it is. It's creepy. The whole thing is he looks just like the guy on the screen in 1984. Was it Goldstein? I mean, it's so unbelievably frightening that this guy would be anywhere near the levers of power in any government, let alone ours. That is who he is. This is what he wants. He's a fascist, and he believes in fascism. He's always believed in racism. He is a person who was educated about race in apartheid South Africa. He misses the time, the gentler time when Africans knew their place. He wants to go back there. He is a complete and utter failure as a compassionate human being, but he is a billionaire, and so people take him seriously, which is a crying shame. But that's how the week started, and this is how the week's going to end too, and I'll show you what I mean. So that's how the week started, the 80th memorial of the liberation of Auschwitz, okay? And then we had, the next day, we had chaos and confusion and fear and uncertainty about a freeze on all the government's check writing authority. Do you know, like, nobody was going to get paid. It was just the most frightening thing. And they denied that Medicaid was a part of it, or that women, the women's WIC program for nursing children, or the food stamp program was part of this. But it turned out that the portals, the online portals where, you would go to get your benefits or see your benefits or follow up with, like, where are my benefits? The Medicaid portal was offline. The SNAP, which is food stamps, the SNAP portal was offline. The WIC for new mothers, that was offline. And then we looked at the grocery store, like if poor people really had to go to the grocery store because with their own cash, eggs were $9. $9. Do you know what I mean? The charity food system, why do we even have to have? This is what a sick, twisted, unequal country this is. Why do we have to have a charity food system for senior citizens? Why do we have to have a charity food system for people in Kentucky? Or, I mean, it's like an amazing thing, okay? We're a food basket, we're a bread basket, we grow corn and wheat and soybeans and all kinds of nutritious things, and yet we have to have a charity food system. But set that aside for a brief moment. The charity food system, the Meals on Wheels people, the Nutrition is Hope people who make the meals and use the federal funds to buy the groceries to make the meals and then to deliver the meal, they said we won't be able to meet the demand if this is the way things are. Okay, we won't. Then we downshifted into the confirmation hearings of some of the worst people in the world, just the worst people in the world. Obvious liars, deniers, people who have said and cashed in on really antisocial, anti-science, anti-human survival, things that have saved countless hundreds of millions of lives in this country. And they're anti that because they have a stake in it, a financial stake in it. whether the financial stake was something like for Kash Patel. Kash Patel was selling, swear to God, can't make this crap up. Kash Patel was selling pills that he was telling people would counter the side effects that they would have from the COVID vaccines. Swear to God. He was asked about that in his confirmation hearing. He almost pretended like he didn't even know he was making money off of that, or he didn't know he was doing that. He didn't know he was the spokesperson for that. He didn't know that, that was one of his grifts. He had so many, he kind of forgot about all of them. Then, of course, you had RFK. RFK, who was, saying that, he lied about what happened in Samoa. He denied that he was a vaccine denier. But you understand that, Elizabeth Warren laid out the whole plot, the whole grift, the whole ploy. So the thing with RFK is that he has been making money off of fears that moms have, dads have, grandmas have, that the vaccination schedule in this country is somehow causing autism. Well, that thing has been studied, I can't tell you, 20 years, because I remember, working with him. And I remember when he was saying that mercury was poison, and it was in thimerosal, which was a preservative that was in the vaccines, and that's in the MMR vaccine specifically, and that was causing autism. And then when I repeated it, he was very freaked out by that. And he called my show to tell me, no, it's not the thimerosal that's causing autism. It's something else in the vaccine, whatever. And he wasn't clear. I don't know. He was always a wackadoo. Okay. He just was. He obviously is a guy who was grinding up mice in a blender and feeding it to his hawks with depraved abandon, like loving the fact that he was killing live things in a blender. I mean, he's a guy who says he has a brain worm. But of course, Donald Trump yesterday was telling us about, the terrible accident. It was because we don't hire the best and the brightest and the most brilliant geniuses. And meanwhile, the transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, who had his first press conference yesterday, came straight off of MTV's Real World and Fox's Weekend lineup. He's literally picking people off of television and then berating us.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Stu Peters, does that name ring a bell?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you familiar with Mr. Stu Peters?
Not off the top of my head.
He made 8 separate appearances on his podcast. He promoted outrageous conspiracy theories and worked with a prominent neo-Nazi. There are more. Ted Nugent, it goes on, the list goes on. I'm just asking, when it comes to your association with individuals, why are so many of them in this category?
My association, as you loosely define it, is by appearing in media over 1,000 times to take on people who are putting on conspiratorial theories and to devour them of their false impressions and to talk to them about the truth. That is something that I will always continue to fight for, Senator.
Clearly, Kash Patel is lying. Yeah, he absolutely does know who I am, and he's very familiar on a lot of different levels, and I'm not going to get into that right now because this guy is going through a Senate confirmation hearing, so I'm not going to get into too many personal specifics at this point, but that's flagrantly false, what he said there. That's
quite a setup he has there, Stu Peters. I should have been a conservative broadcaster. I mean, the money is just flowing in from, the Russians through that, pass-through in Tennessee, the millions of dollars that came from Russia into a company in Tennessee that just, passed through to the right-wing lunatic fringe broadcasters so that they could have studios that look like that. That was pretty.
And his levels were impeccable. It was
impeccable.
It was like molasses being poured down my ear. God, I think I'm going to go check out his show.
Smooth. But anyway, that's Stu Peters. He's a conspiracy theorist, and Kash Patel's position is he doesn't really know him. He does too many media broadcasts. He just, he's on Steve Bannon's show so much that he forgets that he knows other conspiracy theorists. Okay, so that's his position. And none of this is going to matter. The fact that Kash Patel, who wants to be the FBI director, who organized a January 6th choir, The January 6th violent offenders. He sold their national anthem and promoted these violent people who literally beat law enforcement officers. And he wants to be the head of the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, while he's promoting these violent offenders for craps and giggles, I guess. Okay? Doesn't even matter. It won't matter. None of this will matter. None of anything I just told you will matter. The fact that Elon Musk is inside this government doing really horrific things, forcing out the Federal Aviation Administrator, gee, what could go wrong by doing something like that? Flashback to yesterday. That's all I could say, okay? Just saying. Then he's in the Office of Personnel Management sending out, to all of these email addresses. I mean, the idea that he has all the email addresses to send a mass email of the nature that he sent, never mind what it was about. It was about, making an offer to buy them out, which he couldn't back up, which is typical because he did the same thing at Twitter and didn't back it up. He offered them severance and never came through, stiffed them all. Okay. So, but that he's inside and has this data. And then today I find out this is a hair on fire moment. I hope everybody's prepared because most people on the other side won't even care. They won't even know. They won't even know about this unless they hate watch me. And I dare you to post this. It's me and Cat Turd, baby. We both know this. But this is a deep dive from the Washington Post into what Elon Musk is into now. The Washington Post is telling us that Elon Musk and his allies have pushed out the highest ranking official at the United States Treasury Department. Treasury, because he's demanding access to highly sensitive government payment information, okay? This is like, Peter Thiel and his PayPal. Elon Musk was a partner in PayPal. This is what they want now. They want all the payment information. And they know it's somewhere in the on a platform. They know it's, and he wants it. And so he forced out Donald Trump's own nominee to be Treasury Secretary. This is a guy who Donald Trump picked and has served there since Donald Trump picked him. And now his name is David LeBrick. He's, quote, expected to leave the agency soon, despite the fact that Donald Trump actually appointed him as acting Treasury Secretary just last week. And the reason for his departure is what truly should unnerve Americans, okay? The Washington Post is reporting that he had a dispute with Elon Musk's surrogates over access to the payment system in the U.S. government, the system that the U.S. government uses to disperse trillions of dollars every single year. So he's in the Office of Personnel Management, and he's making offers that he can't back up to get people to quit. He's forced out the FAA administrator because the FAA administrator was like, I cannot be responsible for all your debris that's falling out of the sky with your ill-performing rockets. Bad enough your cars explode, but now we're going to have rockets exploding? And he thinks it's entertaining. And the rockets red glare, SpaceX bursting in air. Holy crap. And now he's in the Department of the Treasury looking for payment information. Okay, this should be hair on fire, all hands on deck. But you know what? It isn't. None of this matters. You know what will, though? You know what will? And I don't even want to say it because I don't want a reversal. I mean, I do, but I don't. Donald Trump said today that the tariffs to 25% tariffs on our two largest trading partners, which you may or may not know is Canada and Mexico, will go into effect tomorrow. The list of products affected by this for us is so long, I wouldn't have time to read them all. Suffice it to say, I wish avocados, and I said this before, I wish avocados had a longer lifespan than what they do, because, you could buy them hard as the rock the Haas. You could buy them really, really hard. And then I'm saying 2-3 days. Then all of a sudden they're ripe, they're bursting with avocado-y flavors. And then the next day they're brown and mushy. So I can't even guarantee you'll have them for the Super Bowl. Can't even say. And bananas too, same thing. You know, it's like I just sent a birthday card to somebody that said, you know, because they were old, I said, you know, in banana years, you're bread, right? I mean, because that's what you do with a dank banana. You know, it's brown, it's done. Make a bread. But cars, gasoline, everything. And what I was saying to the people who were freaking out in my life, like I said, there's a lot of people in my life who have turned out. They've tuned out, turned on, and checked out. Okay, that's what they did. They're like Timothy Leary, followers. They don't want to know whatever happens. They don't want to know. They're gonna do virtual reality and an inordinate amount of marijuana backed up by a little hit of Xanax. Okay, there's a bunch of my friends like that. And then the other side, they're freaked out. They have anxiety. They can't sleep. They need, like advice. What do? I don't want to take anything addictive. So what could calm me down? I'm like, listen, try CBD, like the 20-to-1. I tried it, made me dizzy, don't like it, whatever. Okay. Here's the message I send after I tell them all the different things that I think might help with the anxiety. When people feel it in their own grocery baskets, when people feel it at the gas station, when people feel it and see it in their 401ks, when people feel it and they see it in their stock portfolios, okay, if they're at that level, that's when everyone will wake the F up and they will say, enough. They're breaking this country. It's shattering into an enormous amount of pieces, and I know they're going to sell off the pieces for profit. This is what they do. This is the billionaires' game. This is what they'll suck out all the cash. That's tax cuts, okay? They'll suck out all the cash, and they'll leave every American to pay the debt. This is what takeover artists have done forever. It's what Mitt Romney's deal was. Mitt Romney did it to the company I was working for. I was actually, there when it was happening. He bought Clear Channel, okay, and sucked all the cash out of it and left them with a note. Amazing amounts of debt to the point where they had to go to court and tell the judge, no one could pay this kind of debt. These numbers are astronomical. Nobody could do it. And the judge agreed. Kept on extending the bankruptcy for Clear Channel year after year after, because nobody could meet that kind of debt. Well, that's what's happening to this country. It's what billionaires know how to do. That's why Trump says he loves debt. He loves it because you're left holding the bag and he's left with bags of cash. Elon Musk is doing this and nobody cares, but when it hits you, you will.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Keep the faith. This is going to be a disaster.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I want to talk more about money. I'm looking at your paperwork right now. In the past 2 years, you've raked in $2.5 million from a law firm called Wisner Baum. You go online, you do commercials to encourage people to sign up with Wisner Baum to join lawsuits against vaccine makers. And for everyone who signs up, you personally get paid. And if they win their case, you get 10% of what they win. So if you bring in somebody who gets $10 million, you walk away with $1 million. Now, you just said that you want the American people to know you can't be bought. Your decisions won't depend on how much money you could make in the future. You won't go to work for a drug company after you leave HHS. But you and I both know there's another way to make money. So, Mr. Kennedy, will you also agree that you won't take any compensation from any lawsuits against drug companies while you are secretary and for 4 years afterwards?
Well, I'll certainly commit
to that while I'm secretary. But I do want to clarify something because you're making me sound like a shill. I put together that case. I did the Science Day presentation to the judge on that case to get it into court.
Mr. Kennedy, it's just a really simple question.
Yeah,
You've taken in $2.5 million. I want to know if you will commit right now that not only will you not go to work for drug companies, you won't go to work suing the drug companies and taking your rake out of that while you're a secretary and for 4 years after. It's just...
I'll commit to not taking any fees from drug companies while I'm secretary.
No. I'm asking about fees from suing drug companies. Will you agree not to do that?
You're asking me to not sue drug companies.
No,
and I'm not going to agree to that,
drug
Senator.
companies as much as you want.
I'm not going to agree to not sue drug companies or anybody.
So let's do a quick count here of how, as Secretary of HHS, if you get confirmed, you could influence every one of those lawsuits. Well, let me start the list. You could publish your anti-vaccine conspiracies, but this time on U.S. government letterhead, something a jury might be impressed by. You could appoint people to the CDC vaccine panel who share your anti-vax views and let them do your dirty work. You could tell the CDC vaccine panel to remove a particular vaccine from the vaccine schedule. You could remove vaccines from special compensation programs, which would open up manufacturers to mass torts. You could make more injuries eligible for compensation, even if there is no causal evidence. You could change vaccine court processes to make it easier to bring junk lawsuits. You could turn over FDA data to your friends at the law firm, and they could use it however it benefited them. You could change vaccine labeling. You could change vaccine information rules. You could change which claims are compensated in the vaccine injury compensation program. There's a lot of ways that you can influence those future lawsuits and pending lawsuits while you are Secretary of HHS, and I'm asking you to commit right now that you will not take a financial stake in every one of those lawsuits so that what you do as Secretary will also benefit you financially down the line.
I'll comply with all the ethical guidelines.
That's not the question. You and I, you have said
You're asking me, Senator, you're asking me not to sue vaccine pharmaceutical companies. Yeah, you are.
No, she's not. You all heard the question. The question was, will you commit to not suing pharmaceutical companies and then taking your rake? That was the question. He won't do it. See, and this is the thing. Nobody is going to give a rat's ass if Robert F. Kennedy is up there freaking out moms with new babies who don't know what to do about the vaccine schedule. They don't know what they should do with their kid. That they're going to be made to think that there's something horrible so that he can get his piece of it. And they're all there to get their piece of this heist. There is a giant theft of the kind that, I mean, it makes the Lufthansa heist look stupid and small because it is. Compared to what is about, you're talking 27, 20, I don't know, trillions of dollars are about to be redistributed to those who are lying under oath all week this week. All of them were lying. Every one of them. And why aren't they afraid? You know, I'm old enough to remember when perjury was an actual crime. You? Yeah, I think you do. Well, you don't need to worry about that anymore because Donald Trump's got you. He's got you back. He's got the pardon power. Go ahead, do whatever you have to do. Say whatever you have to say. Deny that you are who you are. Deny that you know who you know. Deny that you ever appeared on shows that you appeared on 8 times to propound and propel these conspiracy theories about COVID vaccines, about hydroxychloroquine, about ivermectin, so you could make money. And just say, oh, I don't even remember that. I think that's not something that I did. I don't believe that I ever, but it is something you did. It's absolutely something you did. Here's Amy Klobuchar asking Kash Patel about his grift, okay?
You promoted a COVID vaccine reversal or detox supplement. One scientist said, I quote, none of these substances in any form would minimize side effects from a COVID-19 vaccine. That is preying on innocent people. Did you perform clinical trials before you made that claim?
I'm not a doctor, so no.
But you did promote this supplement and told people that it would reverse or mitigate the side effects from COVID vaccine.
Did I give people an opportunity to make an independent choice for what's best for their families? Yes.
You did that last year, correct?
I don't have it in front of me again, Senator.
You don't have
Mr.
it in front
Patel,
of you.
the FBI tackles some of the most complex threats that we face: terrorists, hostile foreign powers, violent gangs, fentanyl, criminal organizations. Your mission, though, has been to go after people. I've looked at it. I've read this stuff. Yes or no? When Trump wins, did you say this? When Trump wins in 2024 and is in power in 2025, we can prosecute them, referring to Justice Department officials, for an actual RICO statute violation, for criminally organizing the United States government to break the law to rig presidential elections. Did you say that, yes or no?
Again, Senator, you're reading a partial statement, so I'm unable to fully respond.
Give me a break. I could play the whole statement. We have everything that she just quoted on freaking tape in the archives. I mean, the guy sits on all these shows and says he's going to shut down the FBI and turn it into a deep state museum. He wrote books, and in the book are long, long lists of enemies of the state, deep staters, he calls them, that he is going to go after. He sits on Bannon's show, and he promises, Steve Bannon promises him that if he is, Steve Bannon had him as the CIA director, and then he found out he was going to do FBI, and they were going to put Tulsi over at, the intelligence community. They're going to put her on top of the 17 intelligence agencies. This is all designed to ruin America. It's all designed to take apart our government. And that's if it happens peacefully. Seriously, that's if it happens without bullets being fired or any enemy taking advantage of our weakened state. Now, it is interesting that the people that wish us harm are exactly the people that this crop of liars are friendly with, are friends with, see eye to eye with. The autocrats of the world, they all choose their security team like this.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Early in this hearing, Senator Durbin asked you about the January 6th choir of inmates whose song you promoted, and here's what you said. I did not have anything to do with the recording.
Oh, my God.
I did not have anything to do with the recording. Do you stand by that testimony, Mr. Patel?
Senator, what I said was I didn't do the recording.
You said you didn't have anything to do with the recording, which is interesting because here's what you told Steve Bannon on his podcast. So what we thought would be cool is if we captured that audio and then, of course, had the greatest president, President Donald J. Trump, recite the Pledge of Allegiance, then we went to a studio and recorded it, mastered it, digitized it, and put it out as a song now releasing exclusively on the War Room. We. If you had nothing to do with it, Mr. Patel, why did you tell Steve Bannon and all his listeners that you did?
That's why it says we, as you highlighted.
Yeah, and you're part of the we, right? When you say we, that includes you, doesn't it, Mr. Patel?
Not in every instance.
Well, that's new.
He means the royal we. He means the royal we. Honestly, I just and it was only presented for exclusive purchase on Steve Bannon's War Room. But he had nothing to do with any of it. And of course, he promoted the hell out of it. And it went to like the #1 position, I think, on the country charts. Let me just show you who these people are, okay? Because talking about the January 6 criminals in this abstract manner, it won't really shine the light on who Kash Patel is for and what Kash Patel promoted and who he spent time and energy getting in front of the President of the United States, okay? So these people are some of the most amazingly prolific, disgusting rapists, pedophiles, swear to God, wife beaters, all of them. If Trump had bothered to look at the individual cases and the long criminal records, the priors of the January 6th defendants, maybe he would have hesitated. Still probably would have pardoned them all because he wants his own real violent militia to answer to Kash Patel, which is why Kash Patel ingratiated himself with them, got into their coven. I don't know. What do you call it? What's the Aryan Nation? What would you say? That's a club? I mean, what would you say about these people?
It's actually a gaggle of racists.
Theodore Middendorf, accused by Illinois prosecutors of, quote, predatory criminal sexual assault of a child. The court filing obtained by NPR, and this story is just beginning. The court filing obtained by NPR that Middendorf, quote, committed an act of sexual penetration. Indiana state records indicate that Middendorf's victim was 7 years old. Middendorf entered a guilty plea in that case in May of 2024 and was sentenced to 19 years in prison. He's currently registered as a sex offender in the state and remains in custody on those charges. But separately, Middendorf pled guilty to destruction of government property for striking a window at the U.S. Capitol with a flagpole on January 6th. You've probably seen him. You just don't know he's a child molester. He hadn't been sentenced yet for his role in the Capitol riot when Donald Trump told the Justice Department to dismiss his case after the pardon order, the blanket pardon order. Okay? Peter Schwartz had a jaw-dropping criminal history, 38 prior convictions going back to 1991 when he assaulted police officers with pepper spray on January 6th, according to the federal prosecutors. When the prosecutors made their sentencing recommendations to the judge, they described a 1994 disorderly conduct case where he threw a lit cigarette at a woman, striking her in the eyes, a 2004 case for assault with a deadly weapon, a 2019 case for terroristic threats for threatening police while under arrest for domestic assault, and a 2020 case of assaulting his wife, including by biting her on the face and punching her multiple times. Given that history, the prosecutor said, quote, the only reliable method of protecting the community from Mr. Schwartz is in the future to remove him from the community for as long as possible. Federal Judge Amit Mehta gave Schwartz one of the toughest prison sentences stemming from from the Capitol riot, more than 14 years. He was pardoned. He's free. David Daniel of Mint Hill, North Carolina, charged with production of child pornography. He's a director and a producer of child porn. He also was charged with possession of child pornography, which allegedly involved a prepubescent minor and a child under 12. Quote, the government's forecast of evidence is compelling and suggests defendant engaged in sexual acts with two young girls in his own family. Magistrate Judge David Kiesler wrote against Daniel. Quote, it is also alleged he took and kept photos of the genitalia of his victims. The mother of one of his victims, defendant's ex-wife, appeared in court to request that defendant not be released, and because of those findings, Judge Kessler ordered Daniel to remain in detention pending trial. Separately, he pled guilty to assaulting police officers on January 6th. Had not yet been sentenced for that, Trump had his case dismissed. Daniel Ball of Florida threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot and also forcefully shoved police trying to protect the building. According to the charging documents, Ball had a criminal record before his arrest for January 6th, domestic violence battery by strangulation, resisting law enforcement with violence, battery on law enforcement. When federal agents arrested Ball on January 6 charges, they discovered that he was also in possession of guns and ammunition, which was illegal given his criminal history. So in addition to the January 6 charges, a grand jury in Florida handed down a separate indictment against Ball for possession of a firearm or ammunition by a convicted felon. He pleaded not guilty to the Capitol riot charges, and the Department of Justice, following Trump's order, was forced to dismiss his case. But it didn't resolve the gun case, so he was rearrested after he was let out by Donald Trump on the Florida gun charges. That case remains pending, but he pled not guilty. That's the one you heard about, right? Oh, there's a whole long list here. Andrew Tate of Texas, assaulting a police officer with bear spray and a metal whip. Also, soliciting a minor online. He's a pedophile, 15-year-old girl.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
It would be very, very cumbersome to go and look. You know how many people we're talking about? 1,500 people. Almost all of them should not have been, this should not have happened. And the other thing is this, some of those people with the police, true, but they were very minor incidents, okay? You know, they get built up by that couple of fake guys that are on CNN all the time.
Nobody watches.
They were very minor incidents, and it was time.
Very minor incidents, and it was time. These are hardened freaking criminals. Casey Hopkins, he just got a lengthy and troubling criminal history, including a 2002 conviction for forcible rape, which resulted in a 7-year prison sentence, according to the sentencing memo for his January 6th case. Quote, the defendant had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth to humiliate her, prosecutors said in arguments over sentencing. When the victim attempted to flee naked, the defendant caught up to her and threw her down. He also, Mr. Hopkins did, had other prior convictions for assault on a law enforcement officer, operating a motor vehicle without a license, and possession of a controlled substance. He suggested starting a group called Proud Felons for Trump. He wrote a letter for the sentencing portion of his trial to Tanya Chutkin, who was the judge, and she was overseeing these January 6 cases. Ma'am, you have my rap sheet, and to my shame, it's not a good one. For that matter, I'm not sure if any rap sheet is good. But prison has changed me for the better, and I'm ashamed and I regret my actions on January 6th. Pardoned. Edward Richmond Jr. He was serving in the U.S. Army when he was convicted of manslaughter after shooting a handcuffed Iraqi cowherder in the head with his rifle. For the manslaughter conviction, he was sentenced to 3 years of military confinement and a dishonorable discharge. His criminal record shows, the court documents, that he also had convictions for resisting officers, driving under the influence, domestic abuse, For his role in the January 6th attack, Richmond pled guilty to a charge of assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers using a dangerous weapon. This guy showed up on January 6th with a helmet, goggles, a camouflage vest, and stayed at the front of the mob, fighting against police for almost 2 hours. He was sentenced to more than 4 years in prison for the January 6th case, pardoned. Jonathan Gennaro Mellis. He had a previous felony conviction for drug trafficking, conspiracy to manufacture methamphetamine, conspiracy to sell methamphetamine, which resulted in a 20-year prison sentence. Prosecutors said he had a history of arrests which did not result in conviction, including domestic assault. In 2023, Mellis pled guilty to assaulting, resisting, or impeding certain officers using a dangerous weapon, and agreed as part of his plea that he used a wooden stick to strike and stab police officers on January 6th. Pardoned. Benjamin Martin pled guilty to obstruction of a public officer in 2003, a 2016 battery charge where he repeatedly struck his 14-year-old daughter, and a 2018 battery charge where he choked his girlfriend and dragged her back into the house after she tried to flee. He was on supervision from his prior conviction when he took part in the January 6th riot. He was convicted at trial of multiple charges in connection with January 6th, including civil disorder, entering and remaining in a restricted building or ground, and because of his criminal record, he was prohibited from owning guns. But when the FBI agents arrested him in connection with the January 6th case, they found 8 firearms, including an AR-15 style rifle, multiple high-capacity magazines for an AR-15, more than 500 rounds of ammunition, and he said it belonged to his fiancée and his father-in-law. It wasn't his. He was separately tried and convicted in California of possession of firearm and ammunition by a person with a conviction for misdemeanor crime of domestic violence, a felony. He was sentenced to 13 months in prison for the January 6th case and more than 3 years in the gun case. After Trump pardoned him, Martin subsequently turned himself into authorities on the gun conviction. He continues to deny it was his guns. Edward Hemingway. Serious criminal history dating back to 2004. Prosecutors said in their argument during sentencing in the January 6th case that he had pled guilty to sexual battery and criminal confinement and was initially sentenced to 3 years in prison. His probation was then revoked, and he was resentenced to 5 years. In connection with January 6th, Hemingway pled guilty to a charge of demonstrating, picketing, parading. But after he breached the U.S. Capitol building while chanting, "Stop the steal, whose house, our house," at one point, prosecutors said he took a selfie inside the Capitol with his middle finger raised to the camera, posed for another photo while standing on a government vehicle that had been overturned by the rioters. He was charged after his previous conviction. He has turned from that part of his life and made a new one, his attorney wrote. So he got a sentence of 45 days in prison and 60 hours of community service, and he was pardoned. So you can see it runs the gamut. Mostly rapists, mostly domestic, abuse, mostly beating their kids, beating their wives, strangling their wives, punching their wives in the face, mostly, illegal gun possession after previous felonies, distribution of meth, manufacturing meth, stuff like that there.
Why is varying degrees of abuse against children the tie that binds these people?
Yeah, and domestic abuse, because they're violent. That's why. These acts that they commit, it has nothing to do with sex, okay? Rape is never about that. It's about taking someone's power. It's about violence. That's what all of these acts have in common, violence. And Donald Trump pardoned each and every one of them without even looking at what their priors were. NPR published this article yesterday. And then the FCC, the new commissioner, Brendan Carr, he's the new chairman, ordered an investigation into the sponsorship practices of NPR and PBS. when you're a not-for-profit, and didn't I just say this the other day when people were asking me if they were, if I was worried about them coming after me personally, and I said, no, not me personally, but I am worried about some of the places that carry the show that are not-for-profits, that they will be somehow sucked into this madness and told that their practices are commercial and not-for-profit activities. It's exactly what they're doing to NPR, and this is what they're doing to PBS. And every not-for-profit that broadcasts, I promise you, you're all going to be severely punished for free speech. All of you.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state. And I'd take the 7,000 employees that work in that building and send them across America to chase down criminals. Go be cops. You're cops. Go be cops. Go chase down murderers. And
okay, breaking news. This just came across on my phone. Okay, as a breaking news story. So I went to the hard copy of the Washington, well, not the internet copy of the whole article on the Washington Post. It's already happened. It's happening. They're purging the FBI as we speak. They're purging it. They're getting rid of career officers, career cybersecurity experts, career drug interdiction experts, intelligence analysts. They're going to purge the entire FBI, a sweeping effort. This is what it says. Okay, this just came across as breaking news on the Washington Post website. It was updated 3 minutes ago. Okay, President Donald Trump's administration has launched a sweeping effort to fire a large number of FBI agents across the country who worked on investigations targeting the president and his supporters. 3 people familiar with the plan said Friday. It's not clear how many agents might ultimately be affected, but officials are working to identify potentially hundreds for possible termination, said the people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the private personnel plans. Of specific interest in their review, agents who worked on special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into Trump's alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election and his alleged mishandling of classified documents, the people said. Now, Kash Patel was asked about all this. Amy Klobuchar asked him about, did you say that you were going to shut down the FBI and turn it into a museum for the deep state? Oh, well, I can't comment on that because I don't have the full statement in front of me, okay? But we heard him say it right there, okay? Also, Sheldon Whitehouse was amazeballs, as always, questioning Kash Patel. And, was saying to him, you have a list of the deep staters, the ones that you refer to that work in the FBI, the ones that you refer to that need to be purged. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember January 6th, colleagues running through our halls to flee the mob, colleagues shouting that rioters should be shot, us returning to our constitutional business through hallways cleared for us by automatic weapons carrying SWAT teams. None of you, none of us, said those violent rioters should be pardoned. A Republican colleague said such pardons would be hard to believe, even absurd. Your former colleague J.D. Vance said the violent rioters should not be pardoned. Even Jim Jordan said pardons would, and I quote, focus on all the people who didn't commit any violence. Well, Trump pardoned all of them. And there's a lesson in that. Every time you think Trump would never go that far, rethink that. We all seem to agree that violence against police is unacceptable, yet more than 600 people who physically attacked Capitol Police officers were just put back on the street, part of a 1,500-person personal Trump army, now out there with people who have proven themselves willing to do violence on Trump's call. In only 10 days, some are already back committing crimes. We've also tried as a committee together to address the dangers of illicit drug sales over the internet, and I assume we're all against murder for hire. But Trump also just pardoned a dark web operator sentenced to life in prison for trafficking illegal drugs online and accused of soliciting murders for hire. Those pardons, as Mr. Patel has said, are a mistake, but they are also a signal that we are entering a strange and dangerous time. That is the context for today's hearing. Warnings that the FBI could become Trump's enforcer, use the powers of law enforcement to stifle speech and dissent, punish political rivals of either party, and hand out free passes, get out of jail free cards to violent supporters are warnings we should heed. Here are some warnings of this nominee's Trump administration colleagues. Former Attorney General Bill Barr said, this nominee has virtually no experience that would qualify him to serve at the highest level of the world's preeminent law enforcement agency, end quote, and we would never be able to command the respect necessary to run the day-to-day operations of the Bureau. That's for the deputy position. Former CIA Director Gina Haspel was reported threatening to resign rather than have this nominee serve under her. John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, said, I didn't think he was qualified. I was forced to hire him. Trump's deputy national security advisor, the nominee's former supervisor, said, his ideas are ludicrous. He's absolutely unqualified for this job. He's untrustworthy. And it's an absolute disgrace to even consider an individual of this nature. That's from Republican appointees who worked with him. And here's what this nominee himself has said about using his office to prosecute journalists. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. We're gonna come after you, whether it's criminally or civilly. Is that a correct quotation, Mr. Patel?
Senator, that's a partial quotation.
But it's correct.
In part.
Regarding his publication of his enemies list, Mr. Patel proclaimed, the manhunt starts tomorrow.
There it is.
And reposted a video depicting him taking a chainsaw to his political enemies. Is that you, Kash Patel, reposting that at the top of that page?
Senator, I had nothing to do with the creation of that meme.
Is that you reposting it, was my question.
And that's me at the top.
It's a scary, weird time. And you might wonder why these people, especially after yesterday, when Donald Trump declared that only genius people, brilliant people, unbelievable people should be at the FAA, right? Should be in the air traffic control tower, should be flying airplanes, should be. And we know we haven't had a plane crash in 15 years until yesterday. It might have a little something to do with purging the government of brilliant people, of genius people, of capable and qualified people, people who are the cream of the crop at the top of their game, and replacing them with a guy from TV to be in charge of the Defense Department, a weekend host at Fox News, a guy whose curriculum vitae includes MTV's what was the name of it?
The Real World?
Oh, yeah, The Real World. Oh, God.
One of the most boring seasons because of him, partly.
And then he went on to be a Fox News host. He's picking people off the TV. And now he picks Kash Patel, an uber conspiracy theorist loyalist who has vowed to go after the enemies of Donald Trump. And by enemies, anybody who would question Donald Trump, hold him accountable, or question the pardons of these previously convicted violent felons. Why?
Conduct shows character. And if you look at history, you see the danger of security chiefs in authoritarian regimes becoming the tools of political power. The characteristics that they often show are that they are vengeful, that they are grandiose, that they are intemperate, that they are partisan and blindly loyal, and that they are servile and won't say no. I'm afraid that the history of this nominee's conduct raises those warnings.
And none of this will matter until the price of gas goes up $1. None of this will matter until beer is tariffed. Auto parts are expensive. Cars cost more. And that seems to be happening beginning tomorrow. And in a weird, weird way, because that's the world we live in, that's a good thing.